Alright guys, we're diving super nerd deep in Omnisphere 3. Today I'm going to explain the new quad zone by Omnisphere. So I could tell this is made by a true sound designer, Eric Persing. And what I love is that they have labeled this velocity for you. So by default it's on fader. This won't really mean much to people who aren't using MPE technology, or just, I guess you can automate this. What we want to do is go to velocity most of the time, okay? To go to velocity. Okay, so we're gonna basically, every time I hit a key, it triggers what's called a velocity. So I can hit a key harder or softer. And if I hit it soft, it gives us low values. If I hit it harder, it's gonna create high values. Usually velocity is associated with the amplitude of a sound, but that's not always the case. Velocity just means how hard we're hitting a key, and that can be used to trigger many different things. So this is usually the default setup. So what you can do with quad zone is have different sounds depending on how hard you hit the velocity. Okay, so for example, I'm just gonna give you guys a simple template. From 0 to 31, we want basically one sound. So it's kind of hard to judge 25 to 37. Let me measure this gap real quick. So each one of these sections is measured in 12 little bars. Okay, so if I wanna go from 0 to 31, I have to count up 6 bars from 25. So somewhere in between here. It doesn't need to be super precise. People don't play precise velocity. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So somewhere like right here. Okay, now on layer B, we want to activate this sound. So let's go to layer B. Now on layer B, we're gonna go back to the quad zone view, and we're gonna left click the bottom here. If you grab the top, it will create a crossfade. Like rarely do we use crossfades unless you're doing that for like real instruments, or you wanna blend two different waveforms together. I'll just show you guys without the crossfade and then with. So now we're gonna pick up where we left off. So these you don't wanna overlap these. If you do overlap, you want to use that crossfade, or else it will just double the volume of the note and it will sound weird. So here, hopefully you guys can see, if you zoom in on YouTube, you can see these are not overlapping. Okay, now from 0 to 31 is our first range. Basically, we're taking the entire range, which is 127, and we're dividing this by 4. So it gives you about 31. Okay, so now we're going to go from 0 to 31. That's one sound. That's layer A. So if I play soft, like really soft, it plays that sound. If I play harder, it triggers B. Now we're going to make a very distinct difference here so you guys can understand. Let's raise layer B up an octave so that you can truly hear the difference. So this is layer B, it plays up an octave. And if I play soft, it plays down an octave. So that's how you know we're triggering both layers separately. Now, one more thing I recommend you guys do in general is go to the main tab here and switch this back to independent mode so that the things you do to layer A don't affect layer B. For a long time, I didn't realize I was on, so I hope to save somebody a headache. Okay, so 0 to 31 is one range. 32 to 63 is going to be the second range. So again, grab the bottom. If you don't grab the bottom of this, it will create a crossfade. So we're going to go 32 to about 63, somewhere around there. So 61, 62, 63. Okay, and now we need to activate layer C, and we're going to choose a different sound here. For the video's purposes, we're just going to go down an octave just so you guys can hear the difference. See how when I hit these at the same time they overlap? It just gets loud. Okay, so we need to left click, drag this over. So now the range becomes from 64 to 95. So somewhere, again, I'm eyeballing because it's hard to really perfectly measure. And lastly, let's add layer D, which is white noise in this case, and let's left click, drag it all the way up just to cover the rest of the range. So if you follow this properly, you should get something that looks pretty simple like this, where again, we're dividing 127 velocity into 4 segments. So now, depending on what how hard I press on the keys, it triggers a different sample. Now this is not going to sound creative because we didn't choose creative sounds. Now let's go back to these sounds and let's do interesting stuff. Let's click here where it says synth oscillator. Let's go to sample oscillator, and let's see if we can find some kind of flute. Let's go to winds, and let's see if we can narrow it down to some kind of flute. So we should hit this. So one thing I'm going to do here is turn off A, B, and C so that we could actually hear the sample. Now we might not be able to hear it because it's super quiet, I guess. So this is tricky. I probably should have did this first, but I'm going to pause the video and up the range so that we can actually hear it when I play different keys. So that's kind of a weird sound. Let's find a flute that gives us a tone. pretty dope sound. Okay, so we'll play a flute when we play low velocities. Now you can also go to quad zone and do this by note. So you can have it to where in the lower octaves you play like a bassier tone, and the higher octaves you play a flute. So this is another way we can kind of think about it. But usually speaking, it's velocity sensitive. Okay, I'm not giving you guys hard rules. I'm just giving you guys like some game. Okay, now let's open oscillator B or layer B. Let's switch this to sample mode. This sound, let's make it some kind of pluck, because this is going to be our main range kind of in the middle. Let's create some kind of pluck sound. I'm just clicking on random stuff because I don't have time to figure out an exact sound for it. So here we have this, and let's go to layer C, switch it to sample mode. Let's make this one some kind of sustained sound. So let's go to some kind of synthesizer, and I'm just going to hit shuffle. So again, this could be anything. So again, I don't want to bore you guys to tears going through every sound. And let's click on another sample. Now this is our final top sample. Let's add that pluck back so that we have two plucks kind of varying. All right, so now if I show you guys the quad zone, I'm gonna play chords so I can trigger different velocities. So again, if I play soft, if I start playing harder, we get more emotional tone. And if I play super hard, we get this creative tone. Now it's gonna be hard to play this. There we go. So let's make this to where it's not velocity sensitive, because I like all these sounds, but I just want them to be, instead of how hard I hit a key, just in different frequency zones. So let's grab the flute and let's left click the bottom in the middle and give the flute the top range as if this were, you know, real flute performance. So let's make sure we're overlapping the right zone. So I'm copying this zone down here. This sound is cool, but let's just make it the low level texture so that we can play real low notes down here. It doesn't really matter if the sounds overlap because they're not clashing. And I'm probably going to move this foggy sound here over, and then this one, whoops, made it smaller. Make sure you grab the middle so it doesn't mess your range up. Okay, so now when I play on the keyboard in different octaves, it's more consistent. It's not based on velocity. So now that top line sound is in the range where I would play a melody. We can switch. Now all I got to do to kind of fix the muddiness is go back to the unclean foggy and switch this back to 0. I didn't notice it was transposed still. And now we can basically get rid of that mud in that range. Now again, if we play super high up. Now, okay, let's say the flute is way too high. So it's like, I like the flute in that range, but it's way too high. Here's where we would use the transpose to pull it back down. So even though we're playing high pitched notes, it doesn't tonally sound like a high tune. So let's say I want the flute to overlap. Okay, so this is a perfect kind of range to overlap. Let's grab these, let's overlap these. And here's where the crossfade is important. So we're gonna crossfade the difference. So left click the top edges and crossfade, because I want some of the flute to play, but not take over the entire sound. And I want the flute to have more range, so I'm not having to stretch all the way up the keyboard just to play some notes. Now also too, I want more texture. So instead of playing C0, which I don't even know if my keyboard can play that low. It can, but it's super low. So firstly, we need to go to the sound itself. This is why I said this video is for geeks, okay? we need to go to the sound itself, which is this layer here. We need to transpose this up a lot because we're playing such a low octave that it's always going to sound muddy unless we pull it up an octave or two. Okay, so now we've raised that octave. One consideration I'm making is because it's such a low octave, I'm actually going to stretch this to overlap, okay, that foggy area. But then what we're going to do is crossfade the volume so it's not super aggressive when it overlaps. Okay, so hopefully you guys are understanding what we're doing here. We're just adding more details to our sound. And I want that flute to be a little wider, so let's left click, make this a wider range like that so it covers more octaves. So when I'm playing the melody, and again, if it's too loud, we could just crossfade it more so that it's still there, but it's just turned down. All right, now let's record a composition. Okay, so I recorded something real quick just so you guys didn't have to watch me record. So all these notes, different velocities. The main thing we're triggering is just different octaves, and what I'll show you is what Omnisphere looks like as we play. So now you guys can see the keys in cyan or teal. So notice the performance will change over time. So now what we can do is go back in the sound and actually edit each sound. So let's say the flute's too loud, or let's say we want some kind of reverb on this Celestiphone. Now remember, to edit these sounds individually, we need to go to the main tab, click here where it says signal path, and go to independent. If you don't do this, the effects you add will affect everything and it won't affect just one layer. So make sure you guys have this on independent. Let's go to the effects and let's find out where the Celestiphone is on layer B. Let's add some reverb to it. So now it's also add a reverb to that pad sound and a filter to it. Let's also add some unison to it. So now we can sound design as we listen back to the sound. This makes it super useful. So let's say I want a compressor on C and not B. By default, again, if you go to main and have this on shared, everything will be green and you won't be able to affect each individual sound. So now we're just compressing this pad, keep it more consistent. Let's add a high pass filter to this vinyl sound here, so it doesn't have as much low end. We could also turn it up and add some saturation depending on the filter type. And let's say we want this panning to be unique. Hopefully my head isn't blocking this, so let's switch this. Let's modulate this by an LFO. It's gonna have this move over time. So now we can really hear that detail. Let's also add a little reverb to this sound because it's very like direct in our ear. So let's pull it back a little bit. Let's do some proverb. Lower the size of the room to give it more of a small room vibe. Okay, so now we're just, again, sound designing how we want the sound. All right, now we can go to the effects tab. We can go to the common, which affects every sound here. And let's just add some kind of creative half speed. We can also blend this in. So let's add some chorus in here. Let's add a little tape wobble here. So the wow effect affects the... Now we have a really unique sound. And now again, we can go back and actually swap out the sound. So let's say this sound here is too foggy. We could swap it out. Let's say too muddy. We could also raise the octave if it's too dark. I guess we got lucky on that first sample. So again, we could be here all day, like customizing this sound perfectly, but hopefully you guys see what I'm doing here, using this quad zone. Let's see what the difference would be like if we switch this from note mode to velocity mode. Not a bad sound, but it only plays a couple samples. I actually like this, it's kind of dope. See, now we're missing notes because of the velocity. So that's where there's different advantages to different modes, whether note mode or velocity mode. Most of the time, like I said, guys, use velocity mode. If you're going for the kind of spread frequency thing, you could do the note mode and consider transposing those octaves. And fader, you know, I don't use this, but if you were to modulate this, let's see what this would sound like with an LFO of some sort. So now it's just based on just some kind of modulation, which is this is a unique thing to Omnisphere 3. I don't think I've ever seen this sound design made like this before. So basically the sound changes. I guess it's like wavetable in a way. Probably wouldn't use it this way though, it's too unpredictable. If anything, I'd use some noise, some randomness. Or some sample and hold might be a better. And this is how you would get a multi-keys effect, for example. So in a different video, I'll show you guys, this is how we do the multi-keys. Now, multi-keys normally is done by just a sequence automatically, whereas this has no set sequence. So I'm going to figure out a way to create more predictability with the quad zone. Maybe we can modulate this by some other thing, like steps, for example, that might be more accurate. So I'll figure that out in a different video, but I'm just showing you guys the differences between the modes here. This is my favorite mode for the approach here. So we're going to save this patch as, let's go to our YouTube vault and we're going to call this, what is this? What is this? This is quad zone. And then like bell type melody thing. I don't know. Okay, let's put this as me as the author. And then we're going to go busyworksbeats.com. So again, if you guys want to enter our giveaway for Omnisphere 3, just go to busyworksbeats.com/Omnisphere. We're going to be giving away Omnisphere 3. We're going to announce the winner November 15th. We're going to do it live, a live drawing. You have to be on the email list. So go to busyworksbeats.com/Omnisphere. All right, guys, if you want something specific, let me know in the comments below. Peace.